Well, sorry, I cannot be there with you today, but believe me, you're glad that I am not. So here we go. So here's the try these. So kind of pause it and take a good look. You can see the answers. If you got the answers, you don't have to worry about it too much. So scroll down and pause it if you need to. And there's my two answers. You need to put it in standard form. Suggestion, when I square b, I always put it in. So if like it's -5, I don't write -5 squared. I put -5 times -5 is 25 right there if I were to square a negative. So that's one way to keep from making a careless mistake. The other place to watch out for is this minus and minus, which makes a plus. So be careful with the signs on those. I believe we've done example 2 yet, so let me go through. This says solve using the quadratic formula, so we need to have it in standard form. So the first thing I need to do is to, you're right, get rid of those fractions, and I'm going to multiply through everything by a 10. And I'm going to get 10 is equal to 2t minus 5t to the second power. Then once I do that, I want to now move my t over to the same side. So I'm going to have a positive 5t squared minus 2t plus 10 is equal to 0. Now this is what I get. Now you may be able to hear from my voice that I'm not feeling really good. So if I make a careless mistake, y'all help each other out on that. All right, so I've got it in standard form, quadratic formula. All right, so now I've got this -2 for my b. So I have a is 5 and b is -2 and c is 10. So when I do my quadratic formula, I get x is equal to the opposite of 2, which is going to be 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared. So -2 times -2 is positive 4. And then minus 4 times 5 times 10 all over 2a, so all over 10. So that gives us x is equal to 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 subtract, is that 20 times 10? 200 all over 10. So x is going to be equal to 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 196 all over 10. So x then is going to be equal to 2 plus or minus, so that's going to be, its square root of 196 is 14, and the negative is going to give me an I. So plus or minus 14i over 10. And when we have a complex number, we want to write it as complex. So that's going to be 2 over 10 plus or minus 4 over 10 I. So reduce it, so that's 1/5 plus or minus 2/5 I for that answer. All right, so then on my next example, B, again, it appears factors. It's so tempting to want to do x plus 2 is 4 and x plus 7 is 4, but that is not right. Because remember, when we use this, we need to have that our right side, was this not working? Our right side needs to be a 0, and it's not. So if that is not a 0 right here, then I'm going to need to change it to standard form. So working towards that, I need to distribute. So I'm going to get x squared plus 7x plus 2x is plus 9x plus 14 is equal to 4. Then I want a 0 here at that 4 spot, so I'm going to subtract it and get x squared plus 9x. Subtract the 4 gives me plus 10 is equal to 0. So I am now going to use the quadratic formula on that. So let's draw a line right here. I think we'll draw a line right there. And we've got x is equal to negative b, so -9 plus or minus the square root of b squared would give me an 81 minus 4 times 1 times 10 all over 2 times 1, which is 2. So that's going to be negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 81 minus 40 all over 2. So negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 41 over 2. That looks odd to me, so double check it. Make sure I did my arithmetic right. But I do know the first part of it is right, so double check that to see. All right, so now you try these next ones. So pause it, promise me. Pause this and give this a try right now and take a break from listening to this creaky old voice. Notice that when you could actually do the quadratic formula with fractions. It's just a little bit harder to deal with that, but you could actually do it with the fractions. But when I eliminate the fractions, multiply 3 by 6, and get y squared plus 6y minus 2, notice that my a, b, and c does not go back. It does not go back to the top. It stays there with the 1, the 6, and the negative 2. And that's what I plug into the quadratic formula on that. Okay, so here's the answer that I get for the problem number 3. You can separate them if you want to, but with a complex number, it's also okay. So actually this reduces, and they may reduce that. Notice that right here that I have these two terms and a 2 here. So if I were to divide everything by 2, I'd have to kind of factor out the 2. I'd be left with negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 11 over 2, and these cancel. And my final answer is going to be negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 11 for that final answer. So if there is a number that goes into all 3 of these spots evenly, it will reduce. You can avoid that if you were to separate those and make it negative 6 over 2 and then plus 2 over 2 square root of 11. You have to think about it quite so hard. All right, so now try number 4. So eliminate the parentheses because, again, there's not a 0 over here. So you need to eliminate the parentheses and change it to standard form. All right, so here it is. So this is a good time if you missed it to verify with a friend what you might have done wrong and have somebody look at it with you. I understand that example 6 is the next one that I have not done yet. So let's take a look at this. I have a rectangular field, which I so lovely have drawn right there. And we know that this field, and we'll call the, maybe call this X and this Y. We don't know how long its length and width is, so we'll call them X and Y. It says that it has an area of 2,400 square yards. So an area for a rectangle is, you're sharp as a tack, X plus Y. So area is length times width, so X times Y, and it is 2,400. Then it's enclosed by 400 yards of fencing. So if you think about it, fence is what goes around the outside edge, and the outside edge would be the perimeter. So we could say that we have, since there's 2, it's a rectangle, we can say that we've got 2x plus 2y is equal to 400. Perfect. All right, so now we are going to do a substitution. What do you think? So it doesn't matter what you solve for, x or y. So let's solve this for x. I think this is our easiest bet here. So let's do, you could do it either way, actually. Start either equations. So I'm going to have 2x is equal to 400 minus 2y. And then I'm going to divide everything by 2, and that gives me the x is equal to 200 minus y. So don't forget to divide 2 into both of those. So we get a variable for x. So if x is 200 minus y, Then let's substitute for x right here, and we will get, so x is 200 minus y, and then times y is equal to 2400. So distribute again. So now we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve it, but we don't have a 0 on this right side. So I'm going to distribute, so it's 200y minus y squared is 2400. I'm going to change it to standard form, so I think I'll move everything this direction. So I'm going to have y squared minus 200y plus 2400 is equal to 0. This might be easier actually to, I don't know, to actually do it by factoring. But if you wanted to do the quadratic formula, you could. I would guess you would need a calculator for that. So I think I'm going to try and factor it, but I'm going to turn it off for a second to do it. Okay, I gave it a pretty good try, and I couldn't get it to factor, so I did do the quadratic formula. So you can see it here. Here it was. I did it with a plus. I'm not sure what happens when you do it with a minus, but let's just see if the plus works. Well, let's do this. Let's try doing this. So we're going to then go back up. Let's see, where's the up button here on this? Back. And then enter it. And then let's make this a backwards, a minus. I want to make this one go backwards here. Delete. And I want that to be, go away. I want this back, delete, delete. Okay, I want it to go backwards. Okay. Okay, well, that's not working very good, is it? Maybe I put a delete there? No. All right. So give it a try with a minus and see what you come up with on that. So I don't want to waste any more time there. So here we have it. So what did I get? 187 for this. So I get y is equal to 187.2. We'll go ahead with a 0.2 on that. All right, so does that work? So I'm going to get then that x is equal to 200 minus 187.2. And so then we get okay, let's just have all kinds of magic things happening. What is that? About 12.8. All right, y'all give it a try. Obviously, you can see where I tried my factoring, which didn't work. So maybe just go straight to the quadratic formula. Oops. So